Mountaineer Nation, when I said this past weekend that I was going to take a break from talking about West Virginia football because the transfer portal had closed, West Virginia had over 30 new additions to the team. We walked through it, all of that, and I said we were going to take a pause because now we got to turn our focus to basketball. I truly did mean it. I just didn't know that we were going to get a 2026 schedule unveiling this week. So my apologies. I truly didn't know till about Tuesday that the new schedule was going to be released Wednesday. So I'm intrigued. So we got to talk about it. After doing this now for the past couple of years, which I feel like always happened in the month of February. So this feels a little bit early to me that we get a schedule unveiling so soon. But hey, I'll take it. I'm not going to be going win-loss predictions and all of that jazz. We're going to save that for August. And even then, what does a preseason prediction mean? Really doesn't mean a whole lot of squat. But I am going to give you my first impressions and overwhelming thoughts. So let's walk through it here first off. So a little bit later of a start to start the season. We'll go kind of game by game, just kind of with the way that I feel like schedule falls. And this is my argument. I feel like games could be played earlier. West Virginia's first game, the home opener, is a non-conference matchup against the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers on September 5th. That's what I mean to say is I feel as if college football, I'm salivating for it by July 4th. I just cannot wait all the way till now it being September 5th. You'll notice West Virginia only has one bye week, whereas last season West Virginia had two, and it was because the schedule was right at the end of August, so the first week. So this is kind of what we get with a later schedule start on September 5th. Coastal Carolina, home opener. Who knows if it'll be a gold rush or not, but that's what's kind of been the theme for the last couple of years. Then what has been traditionally Family Day when West Virginia plays an FCS opponent, September 12th, Tennessee Martin, the Skyhawks. Then an intriguing matchup against an ACC opponent. No backyard brawl this year. Terrible. No Battle of the Black Diamond Trophy. Terrible. Instead, we get a matchup of a border war. West Virginia hasn't played this team since 2002. We get the Virginia Cavaliers on September 19th in Charlotte, North Carolina, if you recall. This is a makeup game for West Virginia having to play Alabama, but because the SEC has canceled and gone to 9 conference games, kind of making that standard across the board, although some in the ACC have 9 and some have 8, which is freaky and weird. West Virginia got Virginia scheduled late, I think it was last summer. So, reigniting from the old Continental Tire Bowl. Moving on, West Virginia stays at home. They haven't for the whole month of September. 3 home matchups, 1 neutral site opponent. They're open Big 12 play September 26th against the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Remember, having played Oklahoma State since 2023. And then on October 3rd, first true road matchup on the road at Iowa State, the Cyclones. October 10th, Arizona at home. October 17th, Cincinnati at home. October 24th, at TCU. Then comes West Virginia's bye week over Halloween. The next week on the road once again in back-to-back contests at Texas Tech. That's November 7th. November 14th, home against Kansas. November 21st, home against Houston. That's senior day. November 28th, at Utah, West Virginia's first ever trip to Rice-Eccles Stadium. So I'm going to give you my first impressions rather than, again, walking through this game by game, breaking it down and previewing that. We have a whole next 9 to 12 months for that. And we'll talk a whole lot more, I feel like, about this in context over the spring and summer and stuff like that. So first impressions of seeing it, and I love some of the videos that the West Virginia football social media team were doing with their signal crew and all that. So kudos to them. Shout out. That was a lot of fun to see. 7 home games, with 5 of them by mid-October. Me as the West Virginia, tailgater, hello. I love that West Virginia will have better chances at weather with having the majority of home games early on in the season. You kind of run the risk with iffy weather into the month of November, even though, I've been to some November games in the last, half decade, and West Virginia, I feel like, has been pretty fortunate. Sometimes even in the month of September, like I can remember that Ohio game this past year, or I remember going to the 2023 Texas Tech game when West Virginia was dealing with the outer bands of Hurricane Isla at that point in time. So you never know what you're going to get in September, but I mean, I guess the more likelihood of there being better weather. So I love whenever give me 90 over 20 any day of the week, or 30 or 40. So really love that for West Virginia. Also the fact that they have 7 home games. I know that Milan Puskar Stadium hasn't been the friendliest of confines for West Virginia over the last half decade. Really, it seemed like West Virginia locked it in, on some of its road contests. I'm thinking most notably Houston in 2025, and Arizona State came really down to the last series. So, but you have better chances. West Virginia, if it gets off to a hot start, which I'll talk about here in a second. It's great to have all those home games for your schedule, and then just a neutral site game instead of a 5th true road game. So basically, you stay at home for the month of September with back-to-back home games in both October and November. So that's nice. West Virginia, if it shows out in Charlotte like it did at the Duke's Mayo Bowl in 2023, that's going to make for a really fun matchup. Or I can think back to the Tennessee game in 2018. I think that it'll be more than half, I feel like, old gold and blue to Virginia's navy and orange. So that a little weird. I guess not weird, but just of all places, Charlotte, North Carolina. I guess, there's no real signature stadium. I guess you could have done this in Washington, D.C., but I'll take Charlotte over D.C. with the way, the Commanders Stadium is. It looks like they're going to have a beautiful new stadium in the future, but I'll take the Panthers Stadium over that. And then, again, back-to-back home games has been, I didn't really help too much in 2024, but that's nice as a fan. So to have back-to-back weeks like that and give you a better chance to win. Only true 4 road games with Iowa State rebuilding, and West Virginia's 5-2 against TCU in the state of Texas. Yes, I'm counting the 84 Blue Bonnet Bowl, which was played in Houston. If we want to talk about just those Big 12 opponents, West Virginia's 4-2 in Fort Worth. They've had good success against the Horned Frogs down there. West Virginia's toughest test of the season, I'm going to say on paper at least, as of January, late January. Their toughest test of the season on paper at Texas Tech comes after a bye. Take that. West Virginia. I also want to talk about the teams that West Virginia avoids with this schedule. Kansas State, Baylor, BYU, Arizona State, Colorado, UCF. And when I look at those teams' projected quarterbacks, Avery Johnson, DJ Lagway, Bear Bachmeier, Cutter Boley, Julian Lewis, Alonzo Barnett III. Those are some pretty good quarterbacks that West Virginia is avoiding with this schedule. Now, do they play some good quarterbacks? Absolutely. Nation's leading passer this past year at North Texas, now at Oklahoma State, and Drew Mestemaker. Arizona has Noah Fafita for his redshirt senior season. Texas Tech has Brendan Sorsby transferring from Cincinnati. Connor Wegman for his redshirt senior season with Houston, although West Virginia beat him last year, and Devin Dampier with his senior season out in Utah, staying with the Utes. So, not to say that West Virginia doesn't have some intriguing quarterback matchups in Big 12 play, and I didn't even talk about how Virginia has Bo Prabula and Eli Holstein on the squad. But West Virginia, I feel like, avoided some tough tests. And then I'll say it boldly right now. If you don't want me, this is who I am, and I'm not going to be lukewarm on the subject. I think West Virginia has an incredible opportunity ahead of itself to be bowl eligible by Halloween. By that bye week, West Virginia could have 6 wins. Now, I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic fan. I was right in 2023. I was close in 2024. I was wrong in 2025. So I'm taking the glass half full approach. And although if you followed my channel for years now, I am not a fan of the Big 12. Every game outside of, I'll give Coastal Carolina, because being a casual Coastal fan, going to Myrtle Beach a lot, played on their golf course, the Hackler there, seen what they're all about. And also, President Benson coming over from Coastal Carolina, so I'm sure this will be a fun one for him. Coastal Carolina and Virginia, nothing. Cincinnati too, being an old Big East opponent. But 9 of these 12 opponents do not excite me whatsoever. I do not care about the Big 12. There's no statistic or anything beyond your feelings or your own anecdotes of how you feel with some of the different fan bases out there that excite you. For me, last year being the Arizona State game, because I had a personal connection with my brother going there. But beyond that, I don't know any Oklahoma State fans. I don't know any Kansas fans, Utah fans, etc. I would much rather have West Virginia playing an ACC schedule against those schools that are pretty much the old Big East. Or, if you could slide in a Maryland, slide in a Penn State, some Big 12 team or Big 10 Rutgers, some Big 10 teams as well. So this is a continuation, and this is my one and only time that I will gripe about it for the year, is I wish that West Virginia didn't play in the Big 12, that it was playing against some opponents that it has more history with, more geographic rivals. West Virginia, I feel like West Virginia fans, we still have to be patient. I've been continuing to beat this drum for years now, that whenever the new formation of the new Division I comes in college football, that hopefully West Virginia is on the right side of what is going to be the realignment to end all realignment, it feels like. And if not, hopefully that West Virginia is more of a geographic-based conference, division, whatever you want to call it, and it's playing more of its middle class, I would say, schools that it has historic rivalries, traditional geographic rivalries with. So from that perspective, I want West Virginia to take it to Virginia. Again, West Virginia doesn't have much history with the Cavaliers throughout the years. Even it's funny how a state that's in West Virginia that was carved out of another state have never been in the same conference, have never really had much history with the Cavaliers. Again, it's got to go all the way back to that Continental Tire Bowl game, which for me was one of my very first memories as a little kid, being a Mountaineer fan, with Avon Coburn leading the charge for that Mountaineer squad that year. That was Rich Rodriguez's just second season. I hope West Virginia takes it to Virginia. I think this is a game. I'll start doing my research more on them. I think Virginia took advantage of maybe the easiest schedule in college football this past year. And then they just laid an egg, proved they were frauds in the ACC championship game, losing to Duke to keep, to potentially have got in the college football playoff. Who knows what would have happened with that? Virginia would have been ranked higher than JMU or Tulane. So to get in, and the college football powers that be, mainly with the ACC and ESPN and so on and so forth, put Miami in. Right decision for Miami, being one of the best 12 teams in college football, but didn't, in my opinion, have still as good of a resume, or you could have made an argument, in my opinion, for BYU to be put in over them, but that's beside the fact. I'm just saying that I think Miami or Virginia could have really made a statement by just beating Duke in that ACC championship game, getting to a college football playoff. Now, they don't have their quarterback starting. Chandler Morris been denied an extra year's worth of eligibility. That's why they've gone and got Bro Prabula and Eli Holstein, and they'll compete throughout the spring. So I want to do more research on them, their coaching staff, etc., to see how close of a matchup that could be. But if West Virginia could start out the season 3-0, you're coming back Oklahoma State, who West Virginia has historically struggled with as Big 12 opponents, but no more Mike Gundy, no more just Mike Gundy finding a way of how to win with comparable or even lesser talent. If West Virginia could take care of business, maybe to stripe the stadium kind of atmosphere. I know Oklahoma State has been one of the top teams in the transfer portal this cycle as well, basically importing North Texas as well as some other playmakers. I can see that, like Virginia, being a competitive matchup. All of these are going to be competitive matchups to some certain extent, that you have to go out there and you have to play well to the best of your ability. But very good chance West Virginia could be 4-0. 5-0 against maybe the easiest, in air quotes, opponent West Virginia has on its schedule, and Iowa State, who's in complete overhaul and rebuild after practically their entire team transferred to Penn State with their head coach, Matt Campbell. West Virginia could be 5-0, I feel like, coming into the Arizona matchup, which will be toughly contested, but West Virginia took care of business out in Tucson in 2024 with Nico Marchiol at starting quarterback. Arizona, does have Noah Fafita, and I think had one of the best turnarounds from one season to the next. I thought their coach, Brennan, I forget his last name off the top of my head here, but I thought he could have been on his way out the door very quickly. Instead, Arizona had a complete 180, I feel like, on the season, really turned things around. West Virginia is 18-3 all-time against Cincinnati. So, and Cincinnati's 3 wins have come by 3 points or fewer, one of them being in overtime. So West Virginia can take care of Cincinnati at home. As I have already said, West Virginia against TCU have had very favorable outcomes down there in Fort Worth, and they're going to be replacing Josh Hoover, who I don't think they expected to leave the program. Texas Tech is going to be tough. If West Virginia had its best team that it's had as part of the Big 12, call it 2018, call it 2016, call it 2014, it would still even be tough, I feel like, against these Red Raiders. Lubbock always just, Jones AT&T Stadium just always seems like a bit of a house of horrors. I think Kansas with Andy Kotelnicki back into the brain trust with Lance Leipold makes for a very intriguing team. I don't know whether it seems like it's better to play Kansas late than it is early in the season, just because West Virginia's had much tougher challenges, it seems like, with Kansas early in the season. Now, that wasn't the case in 2021, where West Virginia was really trying to get to bowl eligibility and came through with, I think, just a 1-score game. But, Kansas made it very interesting. Kansas really took it to West Virginia, it felt like, last season. So I think West Virginia owes those Payhawks. Their quarterback, they're going to be replacing a lot from last year's team, and I wonder how much went all in to Kansas for that last season, for them only to prove that they were a 6-6 or 5-7 team. I don't know if they're still trying to rediscover themselves. What are they trying to do as a football program? Put all this money into this new stadium. Is it a bounce back year for Lance Leipold? Is ultimately what I'm trying to say. But it's been a while since Kansas has beat West Virginia, 2013, I believe, since West Virginia has lost to Kansas at home, and that was that terrible 4-8 season where West Virginia lost to both a bad Iowa State program and Kansas in back-to-back weeks. Then Houston, West Virginia beat this past season. Houston's never been to Morgantown. That'll be a fun one. And then obviously going out to Utah will be tough. I don't care that Kyle Whittingham's now gone. I think there will be a pretty seamless transition to Morgan Scalley. And, of course, keeping Devin Dampier. I know some of their, like John Henry Daly's now in Michigan, but anything can happen on the last week of the season. If West Virginia's still in it, where is the same thing with Utah. So I'm not going to, I'm just going to give you impressions. I'm not going to give a ceiling, not going to give a floor, not going to give a prediction here, but I just kind of gave you my thoughts off the top of my head with looking at this schedule. So when I think about all of this in totality, schedule, high school recruiting, transfer portal recruiting of what West Virginia's needed to do. I don't think that West Virginia took this from a perspective that West Virginia needed to go all in on this season and spend what, I'm hearing rumors about potentially, I don't know if this is true, Mark Cuban spending over $10 million potentially to bring Fernando Mendoza back to Indy. I don't think West Virginia needs to do something so chaotic and dramatic as that. But with this schedule, with the roster that it's assembled, there is definitely a way, I feel like, for West Virginia to get back to bowl eligibility and better. Now, do I think this is as good of a roster as like I said, the 2018 team that I really thought was West Virginia's best chance of winning? Will Greer's senior season, Drew David Sills, Gary Jennings, probably the best chance West Virginia's had at winning the Big 12? No, but I don't think you need that necessarily. Like 2005, it's just kind of like in my head, I feel like with looking at this quarterback situation and looking at this kind of like ragtag kind of group all assembled together, I don't mean that in any sort of disrespect kind of way, but guys who are probably counted out, who have a lot of potential, that need the right coaching to gel together, formulate this nucleus, and go out there and just take heads and be physical. So that's what I'm really hoping for that develops, that again was started in 2025 with some key pieces that are returning, namely Landon Livingston at center, Nick Cray at left tackle, Scotty Fox at quarterback, and that they can go out there, form this nucleus, and they can road grade some people. And hopefully that over time, wear and tear over the season, that West Virginia has enough depth to lean on that offensive line, that these other opponents that West Virginia is going to play can only play with West Virginia for 3 quarters. So being a fourth quarter team, and it's going to come down to a lot of single possession games. And hopefully West Virginia is on the right side of them, with so many being at home. So does that make sense, Mountaineer Nation? I'd love to know your thoughts. Good, bad, or indifferent. Please leave them here on YouTube. If you've liked this video, please like it so more Mountaineer fans can see it across YouTube. And I'd love to have you a subscriber to my channel. I'm going to go, I think I can catch the second half of the Arizona State basketball game here for this. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog that I do this each and every week and have a lot of fun doing it. And we're going to be talking basketball very soon. So thankful to be talking football again with this schedule, but we got to talk about the Mountaineer Hoop Squad as well. So take care, everybody. Let's go. Hail West Virginia. Spot the ball.